There's one thing that can give us access to ourselves, and that's forgiveness. Forgiveness means that even though whatever happened, it's not a reason to live less. When we receive forgiveness, then we are committed to life as if there was never an offense. And so as long as there's no forgiveness, there is less life. There's the will of life, which represents the Creator, and then there's the anger that's limiting that will, that's weakening that will. And in order to strengthen the will, we need forgiveness, so that the anger will disappear. Not only will it disappear, it will be converted into compassion. The more there was anger, how can such a situation happen? The more there's going to be compassion. Oh, look at this human being that is stuck in this situation. The anger is not helping him. The compassion can help him. The compassion can give him access to forgiveness. And when there's forgiveness, the heart can heal, life can return. We can remember what we couldn't remember while we were angry. This anger, this frustration, is at the root of exile. Exile is simply an accumulation of frustration within the human body, within the human soul. And then the spirits are not completely human-friendly. Even the kindest human spirit is very far from being human-friendly. Humans have forgotten how to be friendly to their own kind. This is a result of frustration. Frustration because the natural human needs are not being respected. We don't understand what they need in order to give them in a way that avoids frustration and maintains the unity, empowers the will, and makes anger disappear. Anger is a frustrated will. Anger is a positive thing. It means something is being created because something has been violated, and now we have to direct that. Whatever is being awoken needs to be directed towards compassion. Wow, there's a terrible situation. Don't be angry for the terrible situation. Feel compassion towards the terrible situation. Compassion is what distinguishes the owner from the slave. The king cares about what's his, and the slave, he's just doing orders. He doesn't care about what's actually taking place. Compassion belongs to the owner. Compassion identifies the spirit of the owner. When the slave gets frustrated, he gets angry. When the royal family gets frustrated, they feel compassion towards creation. All our practical desires relate to the slave, and so all our practical desires lead to frustration, because frustration is the reaction of the slave. The owner feels compassion. This is his home. He knows that it shouldn't be that way. And he feels compassion because humanity has to endure, because they don't understand. And so he patiently waits for humanity to understand. Humanity has to become the king of this planet. And so they have to learn how to be accurate to the kingdom, how to create unity, connection, love, desire within the people, and to avoid frustration that leads to anger. Anger will separate, and once there is separation, then the unity cannot reside. Then there is frustration between the parts. And so in order to return from frustration to compassion, the bridge that leads from the anger to the awakening of the soul is forgiveness. If we forgive, we will see that the evil is unjustified. We will see that in the world of concept, no one wants to create evil. Evil would not exist if humanity knew their own nature. It's from the ignorance that people think they can create evil in others and not in themselves, that the whole world is covered in evil. People have lost the ability to be authentic because they have to lead a face towards the outside world and a face towards the inside world. These two faces can become very different from each other. This leads to the soul surrendering its power. Only a united soul can forgive and find compassion. A fragmented soul is frustrated, and it needs to find forgiveness. To forgive is to unconditionally accept everything that is as it is, because the wisdom that knows says it must be so. Each spirit, when it arrives, it has already a predetermined reality that it needs to accept, it needs to serve, before it can get to work and decide what to do with itself. If the spirit is still in conflict with the past, then it cannot act in the present. It cannot do what it wanted to do. It came into a situation, it's reacting to the situation. And there again we get to frustration. Each spirit has what to say. It comes as a messenger. It wants to be itself. It doesn't want to be a slave to the past. Slaves get frustrated. They don't have an interest in the big picture. And so the slave cannot find forgiveness, and the son will find forgiveness. The slave cannot remember compassion, and the son will feel compassion. The slave is doing because he expects a reward, and the son does because how can he not do? How can he not protect what's best for the one who made all? If he knows that him and the world are the same thing, then how can he stand by when the world is so distant from its real nature? We awaken within the divine according to our own attributes. This is why we need to learn the attributes and know who we are dealing with. Every attribute we're dealing with a different reaction from nature, from creation, from the source. They're dressed up in all the worlds in order to become. Every attribute that awakens within our heart is instructing the divine on how to direct the world. It's not the words that we say, it's the way our heart feels, the intention that is hidden behind the thought. This is the message that's being sent to the universe. This is the message that's going to result in the future. In the future me, in the future you, in the future world. Everything is constantly continuing. Every spirit that's been created since I was born in this body is still singing. It's still saying exactly what it said the moment that it had the ability to say. And now is going to reverberate in the future, over and over and over again in so many ways. Because now it's becoming, and therefore it is. Forever it is, because it was. Whatever was, is. When is it? The time that it was, that's when it is. It's always that way. It's a placeholder. It's how the universe knows where it's up to. If you take out any of the pieces from the past, it would look different. Everything was kept exactly, therefore it looks this way. And so this way includes everything. Everything that ever was is required to calculate where is it now. We've been evolving on top of our ancestors. The same spirit, the same soul lives within all of them and within all of us. And we need to find a way to gain forgiveness from this spirit that dwells within us. This spirit has been offended by how we think of him. And we want to gain forgiveness, so we have to learn how to think of him in a way that's not offensive. And this is the only type of liberation we could have, is to create a culture that's accurate to the spirit that dwells within us, the Holy Spirit that gives life. Not the illusion, not the story, not the ritual, but the thing itself. If we'll know how to behave in a way that's pleasing to the thing itself, then he will liberate us. He knows how. He's doing it now according to how we're asking for it. And so if we'll know how to ask for it, we're for sure going to get it. And then there's forgiveness, because he's only angry at us that he can't give us the life he wants to give us. Life has so much more to offer, and there's something within the spirit that gets frustrated when it cannot be its full self. And so that anger is really coming out of a desire to be more, a desire to cling to life more deeply. And when there's that lack, then it will go and find solutions. But if it doesn't understand its nature, the solutions that it finds doesn't take it closer to its goal. It's running in circles trying to please itself, and it's never pleased. Because it's looking at being pleased the wrong way. It misunderstood the nature of what it means to be pleased. To be pleased is an emotional state. It's an emotional state that we can achieve when we're not angry. We can only be not angry if we are forgiven. If we have been forgiven by the one that dwells within all. If we have received our access the way that we had it when we were children, where life can be alive and all of us can be there. That forgiveness gives us access to the heart. And the heart knows, the heart is attached to the root of life. From there she receives. She knows him. But if we're locked out of our hearts, we can't know him. Our heart is the only tool, the only organ, the only form, the only physical shape that can receive this presence that we are looking for. There's no other way to get it. The brain cannot hold on to it. The body cannot create it. Only the heart has to agree. This is the condition, this is the contract. She has a nature, and when you will know her nature, then you deserve to be you. Until then, you're working for someone, for something that's not here yet. It's a potential being that we're trying to realize. But he's not yet alive, he's not yet present, he's not yet here. Only when there's forgiveness does he arrive, does he fully enter. And then the heart opens, then there can be real intelligence. Then we're attached to the source of life. Because if we know the source of life, of course we will be happy to live, of course our heart will open. The only reason our heart is closed is because we've forgotten the source. We've believed some type of an illusion, we've been through some type of a pain. The body has convinced us, and the spirit has listened to the body. But if the spirit remembers itself, if it knows from where it's getting life, it's not getting life from the body. There's something spiritual that's giving the body life. That something spiritual is you and me and all that live. It's the same one. He's trying to make himself a dwelling here, and it's been rough. And so he needs our help. The only place that we can know him is with one organ in the body, and that organ requires all the organs to cooperate before it can open. If there are any enemies, if there are any organs working against it, it cannot open. When all the organs unite, the heart opens. And then we can feel the compassion of the Creator in our own hearts. Until then, we're feeling judgment because we are still being handled by the slave. We're still being given orders that make no sense to us. We still don't feel that we are the ones we are working for. We, the being that we all represent. The I that's in the we, that revealed itself when everyone reached prophecy. And so that's where the world is headed. This is why the world is seeing such big events happening, is in order to wake up compassion, to wake up forgiveness. If we will shift into better attributes, then we will see the sweetness of everything that took place. But if we stay in the bitter attributes, then the difficult times continue. We have to learn how to shift into compassion so that we have a reaction from the universe that is more compassionate. We want to call upon our source. Our source is the one that cares, the one that's compassionate and feels for creation. That's who we want to wake up within our hearts in order to awaken him within the collective. And this is what liberates us all, the ability to go towards compassion. Between all the nations, it says, Chasidei Mot Ha'olam, the kind ones amongst the nations, will have a part in the world to come. This is really the basic requirement. For Klal Yisrael, there's much higher expectations than just being kind. They need to know how to be kind by being wise. They need to be committed and understand the value of what they're trying to accomplish. But if one has kindness, if one can forgive, if one can find compassion, they have a part in the world to come, because they are part of the owner. Those who don't have compassion, they will not be in the world to come, because they're not part of something that's really alive. They're just imagining themselves. There isn't anything real that's committed to the one that is. So forgiveness is the doorway to unity. And unity is the doorway to the heart. So we have to understand the context of our anger. We have to understand the true nature of it in order to be able to understand what type of forgiveness is required. It's not something we can hide from, it's something that we have to evaluate in order to know how to approach. How do we convert anger into compassion? How do we create a context for the situation that's suitable to the owner and not to the slave? And when we know we're the owner, then we start healing from all our illusions, because there's only the owner. All the slaves are the owner imagining himself something else. And so as long as they imagine themselves something else, they're slaves. As soon as they remember that they're the owner, they go back to being the owner. The owner is existence itself, and he shares existence with the wise and with the wicked, with the smart and with the foolish. And the foolish imagine him in a way that he isn't. And then there's frustration within the foolish. And then the foolish pass on their frustration and their misunderstandings to the next generation, and then there's more frustration and more foolishness. Until there's going to come a generation who's going to forgive. They're going to forgive the frustration in order to gain access to the compassion. And the compassion is going to heal the world. Humanity is going to heal through compassion. That's the only way. The right type of compassion. Compassion that's kind to the kind, but does not accept cruelty. A compassion that can stand up against the wicked. It's not just a passive compassion, it's an active compassion. Real forgiveness leads to an active compassion, where all the resentment and all the anger is being channeled to something meaningful that we can do in order to repair what was broken, in order to return from all that frustration. So when the owner awakens, with him awakens compassion. With him starts the realization of how does reality really work? How does it play out? Where does our frustration go? How does it lead to improvement? And from there we try to find a place of forgiveness, a place of understanding, a context that we can gain through the wisdom. The deeper the wisdom, the higher the context. The higher the context, the easier the forgiveness. There's a context where all our problems don't even show up as a speck. From that context, there's only joy. And there forgiveness happens automatically. If we could see one glimpse of the truth, we would forgive everything in an instant. And yet, how can we translate that infinite light into our imagination so that we can forgive? This process develops when we awaken compassion, when we enter that world. That aspect of the divine heals. That aspect of the divine finds solutions to our problems. When we're in a state of judgment and frustration, that aspect of the divine is not the one that creates solutions, he's the one that creates the problems. And he creates the problems because he wants us to awaken and go back to compassion. So if we need to use him for survival, he's available. But if we live there, we're bringing on ourselves a lot of judgment, a lot of frustration. We have to find our way home, back to compassion. There, the divine dresses up in a way where there's pleasantness all around, for all sides. There, he's like with family. When he's in the state of judgment, he's in conflict with his enemies. And when he's in a state of compassion, he's with his family and the people he trusts. And so let's return and remember the importance of what's taking place inside our hearts. And the window to our hearts is our thoughts, our feelings, our sensations. Between all of them, there's an answer about the condition of our heart, the amount of frustration and the amount of compassion, and how much forgiveness is necessary in order for it to reveal itself.